At 10:15 p.m., I was sitting at my desk in my home office, my fingers drumming in unconscious rhythm on the polished wood. My monitor displayed the finalized wedding itinerary. In 1 month, I was supposed to marry Amanda Lou, my girlfriend of 2 years. My phone buzzed. An anonymous text popped up. The Blue Whale Karaoke Room V8. Below was a video link. My finger hovered over the screen. This was the second anonymous message I'd received in a month about Amanda and her ex-boyfriend. The first time, it was just a few blurry photos and some third-hand rumors. I'd chosen to believe Amanda's explanation. It was just a reunion with some old college friends. Sean Porter had just moved back from overseas, so of course, they were going to hang out a few times. But this time, I opened the video. Under the signature blue glow of the Blue Whale Karaoke Lounge, Amanda was straddling Sean Porter's lap, their mouths locked in a deep kiss. Sean's hands were wrapped tightly around her waist, and not only was she not resisting, she was cupping his face with both hands, pulling him in deeper. The table was littered with half a dozen empty beer bottles, but neither of them looked particularly drunk. My pupils contracted. The timestamp in the bottom right corner read 9:43 p.m. less than 30 minutes ago. Amanda's words before she left tonight echoed in my ears. Just hanging out with Chloe and the girls. We might hit up a karaoke spot. It's just a girls' night, don't worry. I calmly dragged the video's progress bar forward. The new footage showed Amanda laughing as she took a beer from Sean, taking a small sip before he pulled her back in his arms. I could hear the laughter of 3 or 4 other people in the private room, but the camera stayed focused on the former lovers. I closed the video and glanced at the time on my phone. 10:20 p.m. Without a moment's hesitation, I forwarded the video to the group chat that included both our families. Then, I posted it to my own Facebook page with a simple caption. Due to irreconcilable differences, the wedding is canceled. Thank you all for your support. 3 seconds after I hit post, my phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. The first call was from my mother. Brandon, she said, her voice laced with disbelief, is that video real? I just got it. You can tell from the background it was filmed tonight. I replied, my voice unnervingly calm. Amanda told me she was having a girls' night. Oh my God. My mother gasped. Your father's right here. We support your decision. The moment I hung up, a call from Amanda's mother came through. Her voice was a sharp accusation. Brandon Cole, what's the meaning of this? Why would you post a video like that in the group chat? Do you have any regard for Amanda's reputation? Ma'am, I said, my voice like ice, before you worry about your daughter's reputation, maybe you should ask her why she was passionately kissing her ex-boyfriend on his lap a month before her wedding. I made a point of using the formal ma'am instead of the familiar term I usually used. It must be a misunderstanding, or maybe someone framed her. Amanda isn't that kind of girl. I verified the video. It's real. There were other people in the room. You can ask them yourself. I glanced at the clock on my computer. It's 10:40 now. Amanda's phone is probably on silent. Otherwise, don't you think she would have called you back by now? I hung up on her tirade. My phone continued to buzz. Friends, relatives, co-workers. Everyone who saw my Facebook post was trying to reach me. I replied to a few close friends with a simple "see my latest post" and ignored the rest. Meanwhile, in a private room at the Blue Whale, Amanda was leaning against Sean's shoulder, smiling as he handed her the microphone. In her purse, her phone screen lit up and went dark over and over, displaying 27 missed calls and over 99 unread WhatsApp messages. The music was so loud that no one noticed the silent phone heralding the arrival of a storm. Sean leaned in and whispered something in her ear, making her laugh and playfully swat his arm. She picked up a beer from the table, completely unaware that her entire life was being upended in the span of a single hour. Back in my office, I began tearing the wedding planning binder apart page by page and tossing the pieces into the trash. My movements were mechanical and precise, just like how I made every business decision. Gather information, analyze the pros and cons, execute decisively. There was no shouting, no throwing things, not even a single tear. It was 11:30 p.m. when Amanda finally saw the notifications on her phone. The color drained from her face. The video and my Facebook post felt like 2 knives plunging into her heart simultaneously. Sean leaned over, trying to see her screen, but she shoved him away violently, grabbed her purse, and ran out of the room. But it was too late. My post had already gone viral among our social circles, and my decision was as irreversible as the shredded pages in my trash can. Amanda's trembling fingers dialed my number, but the call went straight to voicemail. She then called her parents. Her mother answered with a furious tirade. You finally decided to answer your phone? Do you know that Brandon posted the video on Facebook? Do you know that all our friends and relatives have seen it? Mom, the tears Amanda had been holding back finally streamed down her face. The video isn't what you think. Then what is it? Her mother shrieked. The image of you sitting on Sean Porter's lap, making out with him, is crystal clear. Do you have any idea that the Cole family has already officially canceled the wedding? Amanda's mind went blank. Only one thought remained, sharp and clear. She had to see Brandon. Now. Misty Pines neighborhood, please, and step on it. She yelled at the Uber driver, her voice choked with sobs. Outside the car window, the city's neon lights blurred into a watery smear. Amanda clutched her phone like it was a lifeline. The car screeched to a halt at the entrance to the gated community. Amanda threw a $20 bill at the driver and bolted, her heels clacking frantically on the pavement. The night wind whipped away the mingled scent of alcohol and perfume from her clothes, but it couldn't erase the image of the video from her mind. The security guard recognized the bride-to-be and was about to offer a friendly greeting, but he stopped when he saw her pale, panicked face as she rushed past him and into the elevator. The mirrored walls reflected her disheveled hair and smudged makeup. She fumbled in her purse for a compact, but froze when she saw her own reflection. This was the perfect picture of someone caught cheating, wasn't it? The elevator dinged and stopped at the 18th floor. Amanda took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Apartment 1802 was the condo we had picked out together, the renovations just completed last month. As her thumbprint unlocked the door, she suddenly wished I wasn't home. That would at least give her time to invent a better excuse. The door swung open. The living room lights were on. I was standing in the middle of the room. My suit jacket was off, the sleeves of my white dress shirt rolled up to my elbows, revealing strong forearms. In front of me were several neatly arranged cardboard boxes with a few packed suitcases next to them. I didn't even look up when the door opened, just continued placing books into a box. Brandon. Amanda's voice caught in her throat. I finally looked up, my expression as cold as if I were looking at a complete stranger. She had never seen me look like this. Not angry, not hurt, just utterly indifferent. I've packed most of your things, I said, my voice terrifyingly calm. Your toiletries and pajamas are in the box on the left. I put your valuables in this jewelry box separately. Amanda stood frozen, her legs feeling like they were filled with lead. She had imagined I would be furious, that I would yell and demand answers, maybe even smash things. She had never anticipated this cold, detached efficiency. It was more unnerving than any rage. What do you think you're doing? She suddenly raised her voice, trying to seize the offensive. Posting that video on Facebook? Do you have any idea what that will do to us? I finally stopped what I was doing and looked her directly in the eye. Us? I scoffed. There hasn't been an us since the moment you sat on Sean Porter's lap. It was the camera angle. We were just sitting close. We weren't really kissing. Amanda strode towards me, the scent of her perfume mixed with stale alcohol hitting me. You'd rather believe some random, anonymous video than believe me? I didn't argue. Instead, I picked up my tablet from the coffee table, played the video, and handed it to her. Watch it carefully before you say another word. On the screen, the high-definition footage was undeniable. It clearly showed her straddling Sean, their mouths locked together. The clip was 2 minutes long, a damning record of their intimacy. The color drained from Amanda's face, then flushed red, then went pale again. She opened her mouth, her voice suddenly dropping to a whisper. We had too much to drink. It was just a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness? My voice remained level, but she could feel the dangerous current beneath the surface. Amanda suddenly dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Brandon, I'm so sorry. It was just a stupid mistake. Sean came back to town so unexpectedly, and I just lost control for a second. I looked down at her. Do you know who sent me the video? She looked up, bewildered. Chloe, I said, letting the name hang in the air. Your best friend. She couldn't stand to watch, so she left early and sent it to me. Amanda's face twisted in an ugly snarl. That she's always been jealous of me. Enough. I finally raised my voice. Are you still trying to blame someone else? Did Chloe force you on a Sean Porter's lap? Did she force you to kiss him? My shout made her flinch, and she started crying harder. She crawled forward and wrapped her arms around my legs. Please, just forgive me this one time. I swear I'll never see him again. We're about to get married. The invitations are already out. Everyone knows. I pried her hands off me and pulled a small box from my pocket. Inside was a pair of engagement rings. I took out her ring and placed it on the coffee table. The wedding is canceled. I already posted online, and both our families know. Amanda stared at the ring, then snatched it up and threw it against the wall in a fit of hysteria. It left a scratch on the fresh paint before bouncing onto the hardwood floor with a sharp metallic sound. "How can you be so cruel?" she shrieked, scrambling to her feet. "You're throwing away 2 years together, just like that? Over one drunken mistake?" I watched her melt down with cold composure. Once a cheater, always a cheater. It wasn't a drunken mistake. It was a conscious choice. I pointed to the packed boxes by the door. "All your things are here. Do you need me to call you an Uber?" Amanda wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup completely. Her eyeliner ran down her cheeks like 2 black tears. She suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Brandon Cole, you never really loved me, did you? If you truly loved someone, you wouldn't give up this easily." For a flicker of a moment, something shifted in my eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "It's precisely because I did love you that I can't accept this kind of betrayal." I checked my phone. "It's already 1 o'clock in the morning. Do you need me to call you a ride?" This polite detachment was more devastating than any insult. She grabbed her handbag and stumbled towards the door, but turned back at the last second. "You will regret this. You'll never find anyone better than me." I didn't answer. I just bent down, picked up the engagement ring from the floor, and placed it gently on the console table by the entrance. That simple act was the final straw. She snatched the ring again, threw it violently to the ground, and stormed out. The door slammed shut with a bang that made our wedding portrait on the wall tilt slightly. In the photo, a radiant Amanda was leaning against my shoulder, and I was looking at her with an expression of pure, focused love. I stood there for a long moment, listening to the sound of her heels fade down the hallway. I bent down, picked up an indented ring, and let out a soft sigh before continuing to pack the remaining items. By 2 a.m., the last box was sealed. I looked around the newly renovated condo. Our photos were still on the walls, matching mugs sat on the coffee table, and a brand new red comforter for our marital bed had just been delivered last week. Everything was ready. All that was missing was a wedding. And now, it was all a bitter irony. Before leaving, I deleted Amanda's fingerprint access from the smart lock and changed the code. Then I turned off the lights and walked out of the home that had once held so many of our dreams. At 7 o'clock in the morning, my phone started buzzing relentlessly. I opened my gritty eyes to find I'd fallen asleep on the office sofa, still fully closed. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, painting stripes of light and shadow on the floor, a stark reminder that a new day had begun. The first day without wedding preparations. The screen showed 15 missed calls and over 99 unread messages. I rubbed my temples and opened the top message from my business partner, Mark Chun. "Buddy, I've got things covered at the office. Need to take a few days off?" "No need," I typed back. "I'll be in this morning." Just as I put my phone down, there was a knock on the door. My parents stood outside, my mom holding a thermos. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked, studying my face the moment she walked in. She placed the thermos on my desk. "I made you some oatmeal. You should eat." My father walked silently to the balcony. "Okay," I said, twisting open the lid. The warm, comforting scent of oats filled the air. "The Lius called us last night," my father said from the balcony. "They said they're bringing Amanda over to apologize today." My spoon froze midair. "When?" "Around 10 o'clock, my mom answered. "Your father and I think you should at least hear them out." I gave a cold laugh. "What's there to say? The video is perfectly clear." My father walked back into the room. "Son, we respect your decision, but for the sake of appearances." "I get it." I took a spoonful of oatmeal. The warmth slid down my throat, but did nothing to thaw the ice in my chest. At 9:50 a.m., the 4 of them stood at our door. Mr. Liu was in a suit, his expression grim. Mrs. Liu wore a carefully applied face of makeup and a strange smile. Amanda's younger brother, Kevin, had his hands shoved in his pockets, a blank look on his face. And Amanda stood behind them all, her eyes red and swollen. Her face bare of makeup and stained with tears. She was a world away from the glamorous woman in the karaoke lounge. "Brandon," Mrs. Liu began, her voice deliberately soft. "We've brought Amanda here to apologize." I stepped aside to let them in. As Amanda passed me, I caught the faint scent of soap, a clear attempt to wash away the previous night's alcohol and perfume. In the living room, my parents were already seated, a united and formidable front. Mr. Liu cleared his throat. "About last night. Is the video real?" My father cut him off, his gaze sharp as it landed on Amanda. Amanda flinched, twisting her fingers together. "Mr. Cole." "It's real," Mrs. Liu interjected. But young people can be impulsive when they've been drinking. Amanda knows she was wrong. I let out another cold laugh. Ma'am, in that video, Amanda had less than 2 beers. With her tolerance, she was perfectly sober. Mrs. Liu's face tightened, but she quickly forced another smile. Brandon, you and Amanda have been together for 2 years. You have a strong relationship. It would be a shame to throw away such a perfect match over one drunken mistake. A drunken mistake? My voice rose slightly. She's been in constant contact with Sean Porter for the last 3 months. Amanda's head snapped up, fresh tears welling in her eyes. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. She turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Cole, I promise I'll never see him again. I blocked him on everything. My father stared at her coldly. Amanda, in that video, you and that Sean character were kissing so passionately. It didn't look like a moment of impulsive foolishness. That's because Amanda's voice trailed off. We used to date, it's true, but that was a long time ago. A long time ago? Yet you ended up making out. If you hadn't seen my post and rushed home, you two would probably be waking up in a hotel room right now. I snorted. Mrs. Liu shot to her feet. Brandon Cole, what kind of attitude is that? Amanda is here apologizing, and you're still holding it over her head. Mom, Amanda grabbed her mother's arm. Don't. My father stood up as well, his voice calm but firm. Mr. Liu, the Cole family can't accept a daughter-in-law who plays these kinds of games. The statement was like a slap in the face, silencing the three of them. The color drained from Mrs. Liu's face before she suddenly turned and slapped Amanda hard across the cheek. You useless girl. Amanda stumbled, clutching her face, tears streaming down silently. My mother, seeing this, looked uneasy and started to get up, but I put a hand on her arm to stop her. Ma'am, I said, my voice glacial. Are you putting on a show for us? Hitting your daughter in my house? Mrs. Liu's hand froze in midair, her face a mask of embarrassment. Sighed heavily. Well, since you've made up your minds, we'll be leaving. Kevin hadn't said a word the entire time, just stood there tapping at his phone screen. He got up and followed them out. At the door, Amanda looked back at me one last time. Her expression was a complex mix of regret, defiance, and maybe even a hint of relief. After the door closed, my mother let out a long breath. Well, that's over. My father clapped me on the shoulder. You did the right thing. On a matter of principle like this, you can't compromise. I nodded and checked my watch. Mom, Dad, I need to get to the office. Canceling a wedding comes with a lot of loose ends to tie up. I put on my suit jacket and grabbed my car keys. As I walked out of the building, the bright sunlight made me squint. I suddenly remembered that today was the day I was supposed to have my final fitting for my wedding tuxedo. At the elevators in my office lobby, I ran into Sarah Jenkins from the design department. She was holding a stack of files and gave me a slight nod as she saw me. Mr. Cole. Morning. Morning, I replied curtly. Sarah had been with the company for less than a year. We rarely interacted, but I knew she was exceptionally talented. Today, she was dressed in a simple white blouse and a navy pencil skirt, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Her eyes were clear, without a trace of the gossipy curiosity I was expecting. In the main office area, a few employees who had been chatting fell silent as soon as they saw me. I ignored them and walked straight to my office. A pile of documents was already waiting on my desk. On top was the cancellation agreement for the wedding venue. I called my assistant and delegated all cancellation-related tasks to him. At noon, Mark knocked and came in, closing the door behind him. Buddy, you're really calling it off? What do you think? I countered. Mark shrugged. Just checking. Amanda Liu called the company's main line 3 times. The receptionist forwarded the calls to me. My expression didn't change. Block her number. Cold, Mark commented with a nod. But I do the same thing. Meanwhile, Amanda was curled up on her bed, her phone screen glowing with her WhatsApp chat with Sean. She had blocked him last night, but had secretly unblocked him this morning. A message popped up from Sean. Amanda, are you okay? I was worried when you suddenly ran off last night. Amanda bit her lip, her finger hovering over the screen for a long time before she finally typed back. We shouldn't talk anymore. Why? Because of that video. Isn't your fiancé overreacting a little? It's not his fault. It's mine, she replied. We were about to get married. I shouldn't have. Amanda, Sean's reply came back almost instantly. Do you know why I came back to the States? In the 3 years I was gone, I never forgot about you. Amanda's heart skipped a beat. She remembered what Sean had whispered in her ear at the karaoke lounge last night. I came back for you." Her phone suddenly buzzed with an incoming call from her mother. Amanda quickly exited WhatsApp and answered. "Amanda, are you still in bed?" Her mother's voice was sharp. "Get up and get yourself together. Now." After the call ended, Amanda sat in a daze for a while before opening WhatsApp again. Sean had sent a few more messages, the last one reading, "Amanda, give me a chance. Let's meet and talk, okay?" Her fingers trembled as she typed out a reply. "It's over between us. It ended 3 years ago." Then, with a surge of resolve, she blocked his number again and threw her phone to the corner of the bed. Outside, the early summer sun was painfully bright. Amanda hugged her knees and suddenly remembered a winter night last year. I'd been working late and she had brought me a thermos of hot soup. The look of surprise and warmth in my eyes then. They'd been so good together. And now, she had destroyed it all. A week later, on a Saturday morning, I was in my parents' backyard pruning the roses. The clippers made a sharp snip and a fully bloomed rose fell to the ground, its petals scattering in the dirt. "Son," my mother's voice came from behind me. "The leaves are here again." My hand paused for a second before I continued trimming another branch. "I thought we made things clear." "They insisted on seeing you," my father said, walking over and taking the clippers from my hand. "Go on. Make it final so they'll stop clinging to false hope." I dusted the dirt off my hands and went inside. The three of them were sitting on the sofa, cups of tea steaming in front of them. They had clearly been here for a while. Mr. Liu was in a crisp suit. Mrs. Liu was meticulously dressed and Amanda wore a simple white dress, no makeup, looking even more haggard than before. Brandon, Mrs. Liu stood up first, her face plastered with a smile. "Sorry to bother you on your weekend." I nodded and sat in the armchair across from them. "What is it?" Her smile faltered. "Well, this past week, Amanda has been crying her eyes out every day. She truly understands her mistake." She nudged her daughter. "Right, Amanda?" Amanda kept her head down, her voice barely a whisper. "Brandon, I've completely cut off contact with Sean. Blocked him everywhere." I didn't respond, just looked at Mrs. Liu. "Brandon," she continued, wringing her hands. "Look, you and Amanda have been together for 2 years. There's a real foundation there, and you're not getting any younger. It'll be so hard to find someone else that's suitable." That line was like a needle prick, making me frown. Seeing my reaction, Mrs. Liu quickly added, "I just mean, you're almost 30. Starting over isn't easy. A beautiful, sensible girl like Amanda is hard to find, and a successful young man like you is a rare catch." "Ma'am," I cut her off. "What exactly are you trying to say?" Mrs. Liu took a deep breath. "We hope you can give Amanda another chance. The invitations have been sent. All our friends and family know. It would be so embarrassing to cancel now." I suddenly laughed. "Actually, I have a suggestion." 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. "Since Amanda and Sean Porter clearly have unresolved feelings and things have already happened, why not just let them be together?" My voice was shockingly calm. "Sean is back from his overseas assignment, works at a financial firm, probably makes at least 6 figures a year. He's a good match, and your families are in a similar social standing." Mrs. Liu opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Mr. Liu's eyes flickered, as if he were seriously considering the idea. "Brandon Cole," Amanda shrieked. "What do you take me for? An object to be passed around?" I looked at her, my eyes like chips of ice. "No, I see you as an adult capable of making her own choices. Since you chose Sean, why are you afraid to own it?" Mrs. Liu suddenly grabbed her daughter's hand. "Amanda, this Sean, is he really as successful as Brandon says?" Amanda stared at her mother in disbelief. "Mom, what are you thinking?" I was just asking," Mrs. Liu stammered, letting go of her hand. As they left, I overheard Mrs. Liu asking Amanda in a hushed voice, "What does Sean's family do? Does he own a house? A car?" After the wedding was officially canceled, I threw myself into my work, as if only constant activity could stop my mind from replaying memories. On Monday morning, just as I reached my office building, a familiar figure stepped out from behind a pillar, blocking my path. Brandon, Amanda was wearing a simple white blouse and jeans, her hair in a ponytail, looking almost exactly as she had when we first met. "Can we talk? Just for 5 minutes." I glanced at my watch. "I have a 9 o'clock meeting." "Just 5 minutes." She grabbed my sleeve, her eyes filled with tears. "Please." I sighed and led her to the coffee shop next door. "I really broke things off with Sean," she said urgently the moment we sat down. That day, it was just a moment of foolishness. I held up a hand to stop her. "Amanda, we're over. No, her voice rose, drawing glances from nearby tables. 2 years together, how can you just end it like that? Tears streamed down her face. I know I was wrong. I really do. You know I have zero tolerance for betrayal. I'm a perfectionist. You know that about me, I answered calmly. Tears clung to her lashes. I'm not tainted. Amanda's hand gripped her coffee cup so tightly her knuckles turned white. Suddenly, her expression shifted. The tears stopped and her eyes grew sharp. Brandon, are you really going to be this cruel? It's a matter of principle. Principle? Amanda scoffed. Fine. If you want to play dirty, don't blame me for doing the same. She lowered her voice. If you don't agree to get back together, I'll tell everyone you have anger issues, that you're emotionally abusive, and that's why. I stood up abruptly. Do whatever you want. I threw some cash on the table for the coffee. Goodbye, Amanda. Brandon, she called after me. I was kidding. I'm sorry. I walked into my office building without looking back. In the elevator, I received a text message. Brandon, I'm sorry. I was just upset. Please forgive me. Amanda, I didn't reply. I just silenced my phone and dove into my workday. At 10 p.m., as I left the office, the warm early summer breeze greeted me. My phone lit up again. It was a message from Sarah Jenkins. I passed by the conference room today and saw you leading the meeting. You look very focused. Good night. Sweet dreams. At the same time, Amanda was sitting on her balcony, her phone screen showing her empty chat with Sean. She typed and deleted before finally turning off the screen and staring at the stars. She remembered a summer night 2 years ago when I had proposed to her under this same sky. Amanda, I'd said, I will give you a stable and loving home. Now, that promise would never be fulfilled. 2 months passed like sand through an hourglass. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window in my office, looking out at the city lights. The September night air was still warm as it drifted through the open window, brushing against my face. My phone screen lit up with a message from Mark. Heard Amanda Lou and that Sean guy are getting their marriage license next week. Wedding set for October. I stared at the message, feeling a surprising sense of calm, like the surface of a still lake. Got it. Thanks, I replied simply. Then I switched to another chat. A small red dot glowed next to Sarah Jenkins' profile picture. The design proposal is revised and ready for you to review tomorrow morning. Good night. Smiley face. A small smile touched my lips. Over the past 2 months, Sarah had quietly become an essential part of my life. It started with late-night dinners at the office, then weekend invitations to art exhibits. It grew from a seamless professional partnership to a steady, quiet care in our personal lives. She was like a breath of fresh air, gently clearing away the gloom that had settled over my heart. A soft knock came at my office door. Sarah peeked in. Still here? I turned and smiled. Waiting for you. She was wearing a simple white blouse and light-washed jeans, her hair loosely pinned up, a few stray strands framing her face. She didn't have Amanda's dazzling beauty, but she a quality that put me at ease. I brought the proposal, Sarah said, holding up her tablet. But it's after hours. She winked playfully. I made a reservation at that Italian place you like. 8 o'clock. I grabbed my jacket. Let's go. At the restaurant, the candlelight flickered across Sarah's face, casting a soft glow on her features. She was passionately explaining her latest design concept, her eyes shining in the warm light. I realized how much I enjoyed listening to her talk, her calm, measured tone, her unique perspective on aesthetics, even the way she furrowed her brow slightly when she was thinking. So, I believe that minimalism isn't about simplicity, it's about precision. She finished, taking a sip of red wine. Are you even listening? To every word. I smiled. You're more articulate than our own director of design. A light blush colored Sarah's cheeks. That's because I don't have to worry about the budget. We both laughed. It struck me then that in the past 2 months, thoughts of Amanda had slowly and completely faded from my mind. After dinner, Sarah insisted we walk back to my place. To help with digestion. She said, besides, the moon is beautiful tonight. We strolled along the river walk, moonlight shattering on the water surface into a million silver fragments. Her hand brushed against mine, and she didn't pull away. The third time it happened, I gently took her hand in mine. Sarah's steps faltered for a second, but she didn't pull back. Her palm was warm and soft as our fingers intertwined. Brandon, she said softly, I think you know how I feel. I stopped and turned to face her. I do. I'm not rushing you, Sarah said, looking up at me. The moonlight cast tiny shadows from her lashes. I can wait until you're ready. I looked into her eyes and realized that I already was. In these 2 months, Sarah had healed me with her gentleness and professionalism, with her understanding and her patience. The wounds I thought would ache for a long time had, in her company, scabbed over and fallen away without me even noticing. Sarah. I said her name softly. I think I'm all ready. The shrill ring of my phone cut through the quiet moment. I frowned at the caller ID, an unknown number. I almost declined it, but for some reason, I answered. Brandon. It was Amanda's voice, thick with tears. I'm outside your apartment. Please, I need to see you. My body went rigid. Sarah, perceptive as always, noticed the change and gently let go of my hand. Is something wrong? It's Amanda. I said curtly. She's at my place. Sarah's expression didn't change. Do you want me to come with you? I shook my head. You should go home. I'll call you after I've handled this. Okay. Sarah stood on her toes and gave me a light kiss on the cheek. Whatever you decide, I'll understand. It was almost 11 o'clock by the time I got back to my building. When the elevator doors opened, I saw her, Amanda, huddled on the floor by my apartment door. She was in a simple t-shirt and jeans, her hair a mess, a stark contrast to her usually polished appearance. She looked up at the sound of my footsteps, her face streaked with tears. Brandon. She scrambled to her feet. I knew you'd come. I kept a few feet of distance between us. What do you want? Tomorrow. Amanda's voice trembled. Tomorrow, Sean and I are getting our marriage license. Congratulations. I said, my voice impossibly even. No. She launched forward and grabbed my arm. I don't want to marry him. I made a mistake. Brandon, let's run away together. Right now. We can leave this city and start over. I gently but firmly pulled my arm from her grasp. Amanda, you're drunk. I only had a little. She shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Brandon, I've always loved you. That night at the karaoke bar, I don't know what happened. It was like I was possessed. Adults have to take responsibility for their choices. I cut her off. You chose Sean, and now you want to run away the night before you make it official. She swayed as if struck by a physical blow. I just suddenly realized what a huge mistake I made. I looked at her, overcome by a wave of exhaustion. Amanda, do you know what the biggest problem between us is? She shook her head, bewildered. You never understood the meaning of responsibility and choice. I said, my voice quiet, but each word landing like a hammer blow. You chose to betray me, but you couldn't face the consequences. You chose Sean, but you want to run at the last minute. You can't even be honest with yourself. Her face was ghostly white in the dim hallway light. I just made a mistake. No, you're just constantly running away. Go home, Amanda. Tomorrow is an important day for you. Brandon. She cried out desperately as I unlocked my door. If I don't leave with you tonight, I'll never have another chance. I paused in the doorway and looked back at her. Be a good wife. I wish you both happiness. The sound of the door closing was deafening in the silence of the night. Amanda sank to the floor, sobbing without a sound. She knew this time that I was truly gone for good. The next morning at the office, Mark sent me a photo. It was Amanda and Sean standing in front of the county clerk's office, holding their marriage certificate and smiling for the camera. Amanda's smile was stiff and forced, her eyes puffy and red, clear evidence she had been crying. I looked at it for a second before closing the image. I picked up my phone and dialed Sarah's number. Are you free for lunch? My treat. We had lunch at a quiet sushi restaurant. Sarah wore a pale green dress, looking as fresh as a spring morning. She listened quietly as I briefly recounted the events of last night, her eyes full of gentle understanding. So, she asked softly, how are you feeling now? I thought for a moment. Strangely, I don't feel anything. It's like watching a story about someone else. Sarah smiled. That means you've moved on. Sarah, I said, suddenly taking her hand across the table. I was trying to tell you something last night before I was interrupted. Her eyes lit up. I wanted to tell you that I'm ready. I said, my voice firm and gentle. Ready to start a new relationship with you. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, but she was smiling. Are you sure? I don't want you to do this just because Amanda got married. It's not because of her. I interrupted. It's because of you. These past 2 months, you're the one who showed me what a healthy relationship looks like, what mutual respect and support feel like. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating our clasped hands. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, let's give it a try. 2 weeks later, Amanda and Sean held their wedding at the Hyatt Regency. I heard from colleagues that it was a lavish affair, but the bride wore a forced smile the entire time and nearly dropped a glass during the toast. That same evening, Sarah and I had dinner on the small balcony of my apartment. There were no grand decorations, no noisy guests, just simple home-cooked food and a bottle of red wine. Sarah had brought a tiramisu she made herself, and it was surprisingly delicious. I never thought, I said, looking at the gentlewoman across from me, that a relationship could feel so easy, so natural. Sarah smiled. That's because we could just be ourselves. No need to pretend. Under the moonlight, I leaned forward and gently kissed her. The kiss was tender and restrained, yet it was more moving than any passionate embrace. When I pulled back, her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were shining like stars. This is a new beginning, she whispered. And on the other side of the city, Amanda lay in the luxurious bridal suite of the hotel, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Beside her, Sean was snoring loudly, one arm thrown across her waist, pinning her to the bed. A single tear escaped the corner of her eye and disappeared into the pillow. 2 lives, now headed in entirely different directions. Part 7. A year later, in early summer, Amanda, 7 months pregnant, found a pair of women's panties in the pocket of Sean's suit jacket. They weren't hers. Her fingers recoiled as if burned, and her chest heaved. The bright sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the delicate embroidery on the small piece of fabric, which seemed to mock her naivety. Amanda lowered herself onto the sofa, a roaring sound in her ears. Since they married, Sean's work engagements had become more frequent, his homecomings later and later. He often came home smelling of different perfumes. Every time she confronted him, he had a perfect excuse, a female client, a female colleague, even a scent he'd picked up in a crowded elevator. But this time, the proof was undeniable. The sound of a key in the lock startled her. Amanda snatched the panties and stumbled to the entryway. The moment Sean stepped inside, she threw the black lace in his face. "What is this?" Her voice was so shrill it didn't sound like her own. "Did another female colleague accidentally drop this?" Sean froze for a second. Then his expression soured with annoyance. "Were you going through my pockets? Answer me." Amanda grabbed a vase from the console table and hurled it to the floor, where it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Sean's eyes turned cold. "Amanda, remember your place." "My place?" She laughed hysterically. The pathetic, pregnant wife who has to tolerate her husband's cheating. "That's enough." Sean seized her by the wrist. "Don't push it. If you hadn't been so desperate to marry me back then, do you think I would have?" Amanda felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. She began to tremble uncontrollably. "I was desperate, weren't you?" Sean sneered. "Who was it that ran to her ex-boyfriend's apartment the night before our wedding begging him to take her back? If I hadn't taken you in, you'd be a pathetic washed-up joke right now." His words were a knife in her heart. She wrenched her arm free and a sharp pain shot through her abdomen. A cold sweat instantly soaked her back. She doubled over, groaning in pain. Only then did Sean panic. "Amanda, Amanda." The fluorescent lights of the hospital were blinding. The doctor said the extreme emotional distress had caused premature contractions. She had nearly gone into early labor and was ordered on complete bed rest. By her bedside, her mother was wiping away tears while lecturing her on being so foolish. "Men will be men. A little fun on the side is normal," her mother whispered. "You're pregnant right now. Why make such a scene?" Amanda couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Mom, he's cheating on me." "Where's the proof? What does a single pair of panties prove?" Her mother dismissed her concerns. "Besides, if you divorce him now, the baby will be born without a father. How will you manage?" Amanda turned to her father, who stood by the window silent. But his expression said it all. He agreed with her mother. "Amanda," her mother said, taking her hand, "just endure it for now. Wait until the baby is born. Men settle down once they have children." Amanda closed her eyes, silent tears streaming down her face. In that moment, she realized with stark clarity that she was lying alone on the edge of a cliff with no one behind her. Her son was born safely in the early fall. Sean was overjoyed, posting on Facebook, "The Porter legacy continues," without a single mention of the difficult labor. Lying in a hospital bed, Amanda watched her husband hold their baby and accept congratulations from friends and family, her heart turning to ash. She had just finished her postpartum confinement when a blonde woman with a mixed-race little boy showed up at her door. "I'm Lisa, Sean's girlfriend from his time in America," the woman said bluntly in fluent English. "This is our son. He's 3. Amanda stood frozen in the doorway, holding her own 2-month-old infant. The little boy hid shyly behind his mother, but his eyes, they were identical to Sean's. Sean ran up a huge gambling debt in the States and abandoned us to come back here, Lisa said calmly. I'm here to get the money he owes us. Otherwise, I'll see him in court. When Sean rushed home, the living room was already a war zone. Lisa presented a DNA report, a birth certificate, and a series of photos of Sean with the boy. The evidence was irrefutable. You came back here not because you couldn't forgive me. Amanda's voice trembled. But to run from your debts and your responsibilities as a father. Sean, furious and cornered, snapped, "Shut up. This is none of your business." He shoved Amanda, nearly making her drop their baby. Lisa, quick on her feet, steadied her and then slapped Sean hard across the face. Are you even human? Lisa's shout made the windows rattle. Treating your own wife and child like this. The family imploded. Sean finally agreed to pay child support on the condition that Lisa take the boy and return to America immediately. Amanda sat in a corner throughout the entire ordeal, clutching her baby, feeling like a bystander in the ruins of her own life. That night, Sean came home drunk to find 2 suitcases packed and waiting by the bedroom door. Amanda stood there holding their sleeping son, her face devoid of expression. I want a divorce. What did you say? Sean squinted at her. I've had enough, she said, her voice unnervingly calm. I'm taking the baby and moving back to my parents' house tomorrow. Sean burst out laughing. Your parents? You think they'll want you back? Damaged goods with a baby in tow? Who would want you? Amanda didn't answer. She just gently patted her son's back, turned, and went into the guest room, locking the door behind her. The divorce was surprisingly swift. Sean wanted the house and the car. He showed no interest in his son. Amanda returned to her parents' home with a 2-month-old baby and was met with 2 grim faces. You really got a divorce? Her mother's voice was sharp. The child is so young and now he has no father. What are you going to do? Her father sat on the sofa chain-smoking in silence. I can support myself and my son, Amanda said, holding the baby tighter. How? Her mother scoffed. Can your salary even cover a nanny? If you don't work, where will the money come from? The following months were a living nightmare. Her mother's daily complaints about her being damaged goods and a burden were constant. Her father found excuses to be out of the house as often as possible. Worse, her mother began arranging dinners with a string of eligible men. Mr. Roberts is an executive at a public company. His wife passed away last year, her mother whispered in the kitchen. He's in his 50s, but he's stable and has a thing for younger, pretty women. At the dinner table, Amanda felt the balding man's slimy gaze crawl all over Mr. Wong. He's in construction, divorced for 3 years, her mother said excitedly after another setup. He made it clear he doesn't mind that you have a child as long as you take good care of him and his daughter. Amanda finally snapped. Mom, I am not a piece of merchandise. Then what do you want? Her mother shot back. To live here with your child forever. What would the neighbors think of us? The argument ended with her father slamming the door on his way out. 3 months later, when her mother arranged yet another blind date, this time with a wealthy widower who explicitly stated he was just looking for a nanny and a stepmom, Amanda broke down completely. Enough. She smashed a teacup on the floor. I would rather be homeless with my son than marry a man like that. Then get out now, her mother screamed hysterically. Stop embarrassing this family. That day, Amanda packed her bags and moved with her son into a small apartment near her office. The rent took up most of her salary, but for the first time in months, she could breathe. The day after she moved, an old friend texted her. Did you hear? Brandon Cole and Sarah Jenkins are getting married next month. Amanda stared at the screen, unable to move. Brandon, the man who had once loved her so deeply, was now going to be someone else's husband. She opened the photo her friend had sent. It was a Brandon on one knee proposing to Sarah. Sarah, in a simple white dress, was smiling with pure happiness, and the love in Brandon's eyes was so palpable it seemed to leap off the screen. Amanda closed the photo. She remembered 2 years ago when Brandon had proposed to her in the very same way. Back then, she had believed that happiness would last forever. Late that night, after her son was asleep, Amanda pulled out an old photo album. She looked at a picture of herself and Brandon, tears falling silently onto the page. They were smiling, the backdrop a clear blue sky over a beautiful lake. Brandon had once told her he wanted to show her all the beautiful sights in the world. Now he was about to fulfill that promise with another woman. On the day of the wedding, Amanda found herself taking an Uber to the hotel. She hid in a coffee shop across the street watching the guests arrive. Brandon stood at the entrance in a perfectly tailored suit, his smile warm and genuine. Sarah was breathtaking in a white gown, the picture of elegance and grace. They looked perfect together. Amanda touched her own tired face, her hand resting on her still soft belly. She picked up her son and quietly left. 3 years flew by. Brandon and Sarah's daughter was now a lively, adorable 2-year-old. With the support of his father and Sarah's uncle on the board, Brandon was appointed CEO of the company. Sarah had been promoted to Associate Director of Design. Their careers and their family were thriving. On weekends, the family of 3 often went for walks in the city's Central Park, enjoying their time together. On this particular Sunday afternoon, the sun was warm and bright. Brandon was pushing the stroller while Sarah walked beside him, her arm linked through his. They were laughing and talking when Brandon's steps faltered. On a bench up ahead, a familiar figure was giving a small child a drink of water. Amanda. She was much thinner than 3 years ago. Her face was makeup-free and etched with exhaustion, but her eyes held a new sense of calm. Her little boy was squirming restlessly, and Amanda was patiently coaxing him to drink. Brandon instinctively tightened his grip on his wife's hand. Sarah followed his gaze and immediately recognized Amanda. She gave her husband's hand a gentle squeeze, a silent gesture of understanding and support. As if sensing she was being watched, Amanda looked up. For a brief moment, their eyes met and time seemed to stand still. Brandon gave a slight, formal nod of acknowledgement. A complex emotion flickered in Amanda's eyes before she quickly picked up her son and hurried away, her back straight, her figure looking small and solitary. "Should we go say hello?" Sarah asked softly. Brandon shook his head. He lifted his daughter out of the stroller and kissed her soft cheek. "No. Let's go home."